Teachers meeting on integration. Today's subject, teachers and parents. This is Rand Lincoln. The first and probably the most important place where the community and the school meet is at the point of their common interest in children. So today, in our third meeting on integration, we're going to talk about the relations between parents and teachers as they deal with children in the integrated school. In working out this meeting, we've talked with a great many people in the community and in the schools to find out how they feel about themselves and about each other. Today we're going to present some of our findings to you. Obviously, in all of these many people that we've talked to, no one person perfectly examples any one attitude. Each human being is really, I guess, a collection of partial attitudes. So in order to present the material to you in the clearest possible way, we've asked some people to act out typical feelings, ideas, and attitudes in a more concentrated form than we would find in real life. This is Miss Clark, a fourth grade teacher in the Peterson School. And Miss Clark is busily working on that basic primary means of communication between teachers and parents, the report card. Miss Clark, whose report card is that you're working on there?
This one happens to belong to John Jones. You know, John is just one of 42. I have all the others to make out, too. John's an average student. He's done fairly well in his regular work, but I'm concerned about his conduct.
What's the matter with it?
He's just one of those kids who always does something, like pushing a book off a desk, you know, or taking a drink after the lines have passed.
How are you marking him on conduct?
I wasn't real sure how the parents would understand this, but I decided to use the word uncooperative. It covers all those little things. I hope they understand it.
Miss Clark, what are you doing about this conduct problem with Johnny?
I haven't decided just what to do. One time I had a parent conference, and that was on George last year, and it was just a waste of time. After I talked to his parents, I wondered just what I had accomplished. I think this would be just about the same. I can't see what I'd get out of talking with them.
You never have talked with Johnny's parents?
No, I have all these other records to do, too. You see, after the report cards are filled out, I have to record the grades on the S1s. Then there are levels to do, too. By the time I do all of that work for 42 children, there isn't much time for things like parent conferences.
Well, Miss Clark, when you send this report card home to Johnny's parents, how do you think they're going to react?
I don't know, but I can guess.
Well, let's find out how the parents do react. The next day, Johnny Jones' father gets the report card. Mr. Jones, what do you think about it?
I don't like it. U for uncooperative. I don't think those teachers know anything about Johnny.
Is
He's
he
a
good?
good kid at home. He's got M's. He does all right in his studies. What does it mean, U for uncooperative?
Have you talked with his teachers about this?
No, the teachers never sent a note home. It can't be too serious. He's never bothered to ask us about it.
What do you think you're going to do about this situation, Mr. Jones?
Well, it can't be too serious. I'll talk to Johnny about it. I don't know. I don't think I could get too much if I did talk to the teacher.
Why?
Oh, Johnny's just a kid. I don't think they understand. Oh, 10-year-olds all the time.
Well, even if children wouldn't understand, how about parents and teachers? Don't you think they might get together?
You know, teachers are pretty hard to talk to sometimes. I went through school, and I don't know. I guess it would be possible, but I don't think we could get anywhere.
All right, well, how about next year, then?
Well, you get a new teacher, 5th grade. Maybe things will be all right.
All right. So, it seems that the report card is not always the very best and most successful means of communication between a parent and a teacher. And sometimes it's all the communication that there is. But let's get on with our story. Johnny was promoted to the 5th grade, and the next fall, he took his place in an integrated school. Let's see how the parent-teacher communication is working out now. This is Miss Smith, Johnny's 5th grade teacher. She, too, is filling out a report card at the end of the first term. Miss Smith, how is Johnny doing now?
Well, Johnny is still very satisfactory in his work, but I'm not pleased with his mark in conduct.
How have you marked him?
Well, he's still unsatisfactory and he's still uncooperative. And the thing I'm concerned about, you see, I'm new here. And I am just wondering if the principal is going to stand with me on my evaluation of Johnny. I have a feeling if I could get to talk with Johnny's parents, that I would really understand the child and be able to at least give an honest picture of him on this report card.
Have you tried to talk with Mr. and Miss Jones?
No, I haven't. I've gathered from the other teachers that they're sort of indifferent and doesn't seem like it's worthwhile. But I still feel a need for his contact with the parents.
Well, do you think that's something you might do, is to try to get in touch with his parents and ask them to come in or maybe go see them?
Well, I've turned over many approaches and, for instance, I have wondered if I should maybe call them on the telephone. That's the least desirable of all the methods of communication, but it beats nothing. Or I'm wondering if I should request the parents to come in to see me. But it's just a question in my mind whether the parent would say, why, the nerve of that teacher. Then I have a concern, would the parents feel that I'm biased?
What do you mean? How?
Well, you see, I have children of two racial groups, and of course, they might feel that I would favor the children of my racial group in this marking situation.
Well, what do you think his parents are likely to do, Miss Jones?
Well, I think that they might think along the lines that possibly that teacher's racial background, her socioeconomic background, her environment have been different, and she simply does not understand my child, nor his problems.
So you're not very hopeful when you're sending this report card home to his parents? Hmm?
No, I'm not, because it isn't the true picture. Yet I feel if I could get to those parents, I could give a better picture, and I'd give worlds to know how to contact those parents.
Well, let's see what happens when the report card goes home to the Jones household. Again, Johnny's father looks over the report card, and Mr. Jones, how does it strike you now?
I don't like it. There must be something wrong 2 years in a row. Johnny is still a good kid around the house. He still has this unsatisfactory in conduct. The
Well,
school is different this year. It's always been a good school. I think there are 8 or 10 Negro kids in Johnny's class.
has he said anything about the new situation at school?
No, he hasn't.
Have you seen any effects of it in him when he's around home? Does he seem different this year?
He doesn't say much about it. We think he gets along all right in school, and we get along all right in the home, and that's the way it is.
But still, he's unsatisfactory in his conduct. Have you thought about talking to his fifth grade teacher?
Well, now, this new teacher, she may be very good, but I don't know whether she'd understand our kid. And I wonder how the room situation is.
Well, Mr. Jones, what do you think you can do?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to do something, but I don't know what it could be.
All right, sir. Well, we've seen a parent and 2 teachers, at least trying to communicate, and there seem to be problems. There may also be some answers. And to help us think about these things, here is Dr. Jean Grams, consultant on intergroup education for the National Conference of Christians and Jews.
We've seen 2 scenes, and I think they're both fairly reminiscent of things we've all been through, wondering how our report lands at home, what they think of it, and wishing there were a way to meet with parents, talk with them, help them, and they'd help us. Sometimes it becomes quite important. And as we move into the year of transition, the time of integration, it becomes even more important that we work with parents and establish somewhat better means of communication. Perhaps if we call back our role-playing parent and teachers, we can get some help. Mr. Jones, will you help us on this, get some solutions? And Miss Smith, our 5th grade teacher, maybe you can help too. And Miss Clark, you had Johnny in 4th grade. I'm sure you have some ideas. And then we asked in a mother, Mrs. Adams, who would give us the point of view of a mother too as a parent. There are are solutions. I'm sure there are. Do you have some ideas on this subject?
Well, there is one logical one, it seems to me. Why don't we, it's a big problem, and when we recognize, can't we have a meeting? Maybe we could get all the parents and the teachers together and have someone who has dealt with this problem successfully come and talk to them. That should work,
A
don't you think?
speaker and a big meeting?
Well, I don't think it came up, but Mary and I have been to some meetings. We don't go for these big school meetings. Reports, speakers we don't know. We never get to talk to our teachers alone. I don't think a meeting would help. I want to know what my teacher thinks about Johnny.
But all of these are basic problems. I mean, all the teachers are having similar ones, and the parents are having similar ones. So if we have an authority, that authority could talk to everybody, along general lines, of course, but a lot of information could be obtained.
Ms. Clark, how do you feel about
Well,
that?
I'm just wondering about the time that you're going to hold these meetings. You know, we have an awful lot to do. And if we have to come back in the evening for some of these meetings, I'm wondering how valuable that is to me. I have so many reports to fill out that maybe I'm tired the next day. Maybe it'd be better if I didn't have to come to an evening meeting.
Ms. Smith, you...
I feel that it's so very important that any amount of time that we spend in an effort to get to know the child, especially on an individual basis, is worth it, well worth it, especially at the beginning of this program of integration or any other new program. Let us take the time at the beginning, and we will more than make up for it. We'll be better adjust the child toward the end.
But Miss Smith, Johnny now for 2 years in a row has had unsatisfactory. And his other teacher didn't bother to call us, so we figured it wasn't too serious. If you have something that is wrong in school, we'd like to know about it.
Well, I think we both are fearful. You're fearful of coming to me. I'm fearful of coming to you. I think if we forget you, forget me, concentrate on Johnny. Johnny is the one who needs help.
Yeah.
If we can get that through and then get together, the
Well,
fears
when
will-
are you going to get together, though?
I am willing to come early in the morning, especially to meet a dad.
I can't come early in the morning. I work for a living.
I'll stay after school in the evening, especially to meet a dad. I'm anxious to get the dad in the boys' problem. You know, you dads feel that we women don't know how to handle a man anyhow. So I'd like to get your opinion on how to get to Johnny.
Well,
Anytime.
Couldn't we find a time that we could all get together?
I'm still willing to work on an individual basis. Johnny is Mr. Jones's child. Mr. Jones's problem. He has sympathy for Tom, Dick, and Harry.
And
but
perhaps
Johnny is the
that
one.
there's an idea here of having some interviews, of scheduling some interviews. Ms. Clark, would you feel that this would be a possibility, maybe? That
Well,
we
when
could...
would you schedule them? You see, I have 42 children who have to be cared for, and if I schedule interviews with one parent, it means that I have to double another teacher's load. She takes my room while I talk to one parent. I don't think that's being very fair.
Well, there's something, too, about the parent going over to the teacher. You interrupt the classroom procedure so much, and yet you feel like you should see the teacher, so then perhaps we can just take those problems and let one person talk about them.
This business of having a big meeting again. Well, perhaps there's some other things we can do, too. Now, Mr. Jones, you didn't understand what the U for uncooperative was. Would a letter have helped? A phone call? A home visit?
if the letter was in the same terms as the report card, no. I think, we've really found it pretty hard to get much out of teachers. I think if we're going to learn something about Johnny, the only way is to talk about it, face-to-face. So if I can't understand the teacher, I can tell her, and she can help me.
Mrs. Adams has a fifth grade boy.
Yes, and problem, too. I think perhaps all boys do our problems, and girls, too. But I found that when I went to the teacher and talked over the problems, we were able to discuss it, and I did see some results. But the best thing I found was when the teacher was able to come to the house. Then she could see some of my boy's problems there. Because after all, seeing the child in the home does give the teacher another side of the child, and most teachers do want to know all about the children. It's just a problem, I know, of when they have the time to do it.
Did your husband like the teacher coming to the home? Did it help?
Of course it did.
The teacher's just human. She's just a friend. She, too, is searching for the right answers, for the opportunity to know the parents.
We do have a problem with Johnny at home, 9 o'clock murder mystery TV. I don't know what to do, neither does my wife. He just stays up.
Yes, we have it also. I think all of us, with children around the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, have the problem of dragnet and so forth.
That's when homework doesn't get done, too. That's another one of our problems. You see, a child is tired out, he doesn't have his homework finished, and we don't understand that. We think that's a parent's problem to handle.
Maybe if these parents got together with the teacher and you helped them see your problem of homework, and then Mr. Jones could talk with Mrs. Adams about how she solved the television program, maybe there'd be some real communication.
Get together, but how?
And when? That's a problem, isn't
Yes,
it?
when
Where?
did your teacher come to visit you?
Well, I believe she came during an afternoon, so some arrangements must have been made so that she could come. But we enjoyed having her. It was an education for us, and we hoped that she was able to see a little more about our child.
I wonder what she did with the rest of her class, though, while she was visiting in this afternoon.
Perhaps they had the early dismissal, as some schools do, when it is important for parents and teachers to get together in room meetings or in interviews or home visits. Maybe that is a possibility.
We talked about this, I'd like to see what goes on in this new room situation. There is a new situation in our school, and I think we'd like to know what the new room looks like.
You might visit in the classroom yourself if you were invited.
Yes, we have to be invited.
And you'd like to see Johnny's work.
Yes, I would.
Mm-hmm.
We do have open houses occasionally that parents can come to.
Have you
But
found that?
I'm sorry, but in an open house, you don't get a chance to talk to the
That's
teacher
right.
as you want to. You really don't. There are too many people, too many parents with the same idea. And while you're talking to the teacher about your particular problem, your child, then someone else has just completed talking, and someone else is looking over your shoulder, wanting you to move on so they can talk. And the children are there watching you and wondering what you're going to say about them. I don't think that's satisfactory at all.
Not only the children, other teachers, the principal. I want to know what the teacher that's teaching Johnny thinks about him, and I want to talk to the teacher if she has anything to say. Now, I don't know how we can do it.
Well, I think open house would be the first possibly opening wedge. You come on the night of open house, and you would get the feeling that, school isn't such a bad place. You have got
I've
to get
been to
acquainted.
school.
Well, you come back to the modern schools on open house night, and you'll get an altogether different opinion. There's such an attitude of happiness and joyousness and keen interest, and then you get to know the teacher gets to know you, and then you can set up the exact time when you can come for a longer interview.
Well, that's all right if a parent has just one child, but we run into the difficulty of a parent with 2 or 3 or 4 children who aren't able to see each of the teachers, and that really doesn't solve the problem either.
Have you found that that the parents come on open house, the ones you want to see?
Well, you know which ones do. They're always the ones you would expect to come will come.
So we must invite them in and make time for them. That's one thing we can do. What other kinds of things? Now, Mr. Jones, perhaps you could help on a trip.
I don't know. We don't have too much time. If it would help the situation, and if I'd get to know more about what goes on with Johnny at school, yes.
Now, Mrs. Adams, would you be able to give some time?
Yes. If I were asked, and if it were something I think I could do, I would. I think that could be worked out.
But I'm not sure. I still feel a little uneasy about this new situation. Now, I know you're probably a very fine teacher, but I don't think his other teacher understood Johnny, and I don't know that you do. He's fine at home.
Don't you think it has gone long enough for us not understanding Johnny? Johnny hasn't improved in a year. Don't you think something should be done about it? I'm willing to come more than halfway to get to know Johnny's dad. to get to know Johnny's mom, to get to know Johnny's situation. I think the more we know about Johnny, the better we'll be able to help Johnny.
And a time of integration, too, perhaps, if Mr. Jones meets Mrs. Adams, he perhaps would understand about the new situation, too. Would you feel that way, Mrs. Adams?
I think the basic thing is that my child is 10 years old in the 5th grade. He has a child 10 years old in the 5th grade. They both like to look at television. They both have trouble getting them to bed at night. There are so many similar things that I don't think the differences are quite as important as their similarities.
How does this sound to you now, Miss Clark?
Well, I think that's true. All problems are the same, but we're still faced with a problem of helping the parents see that they are alike. Parents come into us and talk about one individual child, and I don't think they see the problem as a problem that we teachers have. We know that all 5th graders act in a certain way. All 5th graders react to certain situations in the same way. For us, it's a big problem as a class, not as one child, but we have 42 and sometimes more, all having those problems that have to be coped with in one group.
There have been many suggestions given, and we've learned probably a great deal about parent and teacher communication, or at least there have been many issues raised and solutions suggested. This is very interesting, and we have to think of next steps. Well, I've thought out some of the kinds of things that we might think about. These are some of the things that can be done. They aren't all of them. They aren't all necessarily things we'd all want to do. But let's look at them. Room meetings. When a Mr. Jones and a Mrs. Adams and all the other 30, 40 parents can see each other, all as parents of children of the same age, meeting their teacher together, talking about common concerns. Letters, in which it isn't just U for uncooperative, but it explains something more of what's been accomplished, what we're trying to do, where this child needs help and where he's getting it. Open house, and as we heard, not open house when the teacher is mobbed by parents, but one in which we've scheduled a meeting, and the parent knows that he can have a chance to see the room and his child's work, and also to talk with his teacher. Phone calls. This is kind of remote, but at least we hear each other's voices and we can exchange opinions. This is one way to start. Though as was said by our teacher, she didn't feel I was too satisfactory, but it would be a start, wouldn't it? And we might think about it that way. Early dismissal. Can there be some arrangements, and possibly there are available now, times when the school can come early, can let out early, and then teachers, parents can get together on home visits, on scheduled interviews, on room meetings. Home visits. As we see the child in his own environment, we learn an awful lot about him. And this helps us as teachers, doesn't it? Well, we must prepare for these carefully. The returns are great. And careful planning, we can have very rewarding experiences in understanding and working with parents. Parent participation. This helps give the parent a real stake in his child's education. He sees him with other children as a human being and as a boy or girl. The more parents that do participate, the more we can talk together about what we're doing. Well, these are many kinds of things that can be done. But before we decide, let's ask a few questions. Where do we start? Here has been a list of possibilities, but which one do you do first? That's something you might want to think about. What plan plans would you need to make? We don't go into these kinds of workings with parents without thinking very carefully about what we do and how we do it. Our whole administrative procedures, they need careful working out so that everybody is relaxed and at ease. What about the neighborhood, the school neighborhood? Let's try and understand perhaps the needs here and think which of our possibilities best serves this community and helps meet its problem of recreation or part-time jobs or something here that they need our help with. And then in the school neighborhood again, what agencies are there? There are resources, there are people of skill and talent who know our children and know their school community. Let's find them, see how they can help, how we can help them. Well, these are problems of parent and teacher communication. And what we want to set up is a two-way street where parents and teachers listen to each other and listen and learn. Why is this important now? Probably at no time do we need to talk with our parents than at the time when they bring us special anxieties, special worries as we move into integration. Then we want to help parents realize that Johnny is getting the best education we can provide. He is going to be with a teacher who understands and helps him.
Thank you, Dr. Grams, and thank you, our teachers and parents who have helped us today by acting out some of the common attitudes, feelings, and ideas of teachers and parents here in St. Louis. This has been the third meeting on integration in the schools. We hope that we have given you some real help in thinking about the problems and about the opportunities of integration. Those of you who are interested in learning more about integration or in getting some help in working out your own plans can find that help in your school system and in this community. In a moment, I want to introduce two of the people involved in those things to you. But right now, let's take one last look at the possibilities and the questions that you might talk about for the rest of your meeting. You've been participating in the last of 3 teachers' meetings on integration. Today's meeting on teachers and parents was presented with the cooperation of the National Conference of Christians and Jews and the St. Louis City Board of Education. It was produced by the Public Affairs Department of KETC, Channel 9, the St. Louis Educational Television Station and Production Center.